Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Friday Live on this Friday, December the 5th, the last month of 2025. This year is flying by. It's crazy how fast it's going. All right. So Fiona Lukey's here. For those of you who don't know me, I go live here every Friday to answer any questions that you may have about life, relationships, whatever's on your mind. My goal here is to be of service wherever possible. And I always love to know where you're listening from. I'm live currently on Facebook and YouTube. So if you are listening, feel free to say hi. Let me know where you're listening from, where you are in the world. I know last week it was Thanksgiving when I went live for you guys in the US. So I hope that you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And now that's behind you. We're careering off into Christmas. It's pretty warm here today, which is nice. It's been a slow start to summer for good old Melbourne, but the sun is shining today, and it's warm, which is really nice. Hey, Minnie. Hi, darling. Thanks for saying hi, sweetie. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Say thank you, darling. Thank you. As we get closer to the end of the year, often this is a time where people are reassessing things, and because that's what we do as humans. It's like time can often be that thing that causes us to stop, reflect, ask ourselves different questions, and then think about how we want to approach the next year. Do we want to bring into the new year the stuff that we've been bringing from the old? And so this is a great time to ask yourselves those questions and reflect. I've been doing that myself. I've been doing that with my business. I've been doing that with my energy, just reflecting, sitting with those things and seeing what it is I want to generate and create in the new year. All of my relatable students on our first call back next year will do a beautiful cleansing together and ushering in of the new year. It's a beautiful process. So we'll be doing that on our first calls back next year. And I always think it's really great to do a reset and give yourself a chance to reflect, because you have a far greater opportunity to generate and create something beautiful for yourself than you could ever possibly realize. I think this is one of the greatest things that we misunderstand about ourselves. And, particularly when it comes to our relationships, your capacity to see that, like the depth of your capacity to actually deeply know and see that in yourself, will have a direct impact, correlation on the level of connection, on the way you show up to the people that you love, on the stuff that you let go of, like truly let go of, and the space that you operate from, that you connect from. It's just so important. And so, this is obviously a big part of what I teach my students, and a big part of the conversations that we have together. I mean, I've got to say, the live calls that we've had this week, I was so emotional after both of them, like teary, crying, not in a bad way. I was just so moved by what we shared. And I have felt very full all week, like just full of gratitude, full of appreciation, full of just how much of a privilege it is that we get to have the kinds of conversations that we have and to share the space that we have, and just how much wisdom there is that's shared in those calls. And they honestly, this week has I feel like everything's just gone to another level, which happens, and I've just been so moved by the calls that it's hard to put it into words. Hi, Lucy, darling. So nice to hear from you. How are you? I'd love to know. Please send me a message and let me know how you're doing. I'd really love to know, Lucy. But really lovely to hear from you, darling. Really is, honey. Thank you so much for saying hi. And anyone else out there who's saying hi, please let me know. Or anyone else who's watching, please let me know where you're listening from. Hey, Lynn. Hi. Thanks for saying hi. You're on YouTube. That's great. At least I know there's someone out there on YouTube land listening to me. Okay. So I've had a couple of questions sent in this week. If you've sent me in a question a little while ago and I haven't answered it, please send it through again. We had a bit of a glitch because I'm operating from a new system where some of the questions went missing. We think we've found them all, but if you have sent me one and I haven't answered it, please let me know, and I'll make sure I answer it first off the bat next week. Okay, so I think one of the things, I know I talked about this a lot last week, and I know it can feel counterintuitive when it comes to relationship advice. And I was actually speaking about this with a couple that I'm working with at the moment. Hi, Irma. I'm from British Columbia, beautiful part of the world. Hello, Irma. Thank you for saying hi, darling. Hi, Craig. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, Craig. Thank you. Hi. Often when we're looking at our relationships, we can get very caught up in on what the other person is or isn't doing. And it can look like the answer or the way to move forward, the way to create change is to really focus on the other person, right? It can look like that's how you do it. That's the key. That's what's required, is to really focus on the other person. And this is why I sort of say what the direction that I look in and the principles that I teach are really they probably feel very counterintuitive to that, right? They feel very counterintuitive because I'm sort of, what I'm saying is, don't worry about what the other person is doing. What matters is how you're showing up. And what matters is how well your awareness on how you're showing up, what you're generating, your relationship with your thinking and your understanding of how we create our reality. These are, I cannot tell you how important they are. Now, in a lot of relationship courses, programs, seminars, they'll talk about things like, all the usual suspects. And I'm not saying there's anything, I'm not saying anything negative about that, but I truly believe those things like personality types, communication styles, attachment styles, etc., they are not going to be the thing that moves the needle if you don't understand this stuff. This stuff is stuff that you have to understand first. And this is what I mean by building something from the ground up versus the top down, right? We're building something from the ground up. There's got to be foundational things that you understand that become your baseline when it comes to the way that you navigate you, right? And then the way you navigate others. But notice that I said the way that you navigate you and then the way that you navigate others. If your focus is solely out here and you haven't developed that level of awareness of yourself and you don't understand the energy that you're in, what you're generating, if you don't have that level of awareness, then you're going to find that no matter how hard you try out here, you're only going to get to a certain point where it feels like it's 4 steps forward, maybe 3 steps forward, and then 10 steps backwards. It can feel like you're out here and then it just comes back. You're here and then it comes back. Now, the reason why it comes back is because it's going to come back to the baseline of whatever your understanding is of this stuff, right? It's going to come back to the baseline of whatever your understanding is of this stuff. Because, a lot of the things that require change are very much based on willpower and your state of mind, right? And so when your state of mind isn't there, and understand our state of mind is in a constant state of flux and change. It's just the very nature of humans. It's never static. Right? It doesn't matter how many personal development programs you've done, how many courses, how many whatever, a human being's state of mind is never static. It's in constant flux and change. And of course, when our state of mind is in constant flux and change, therefore our reality is in constant flux and change. And so what may seem simple one day can seem very complicated the next, and vice versa. What can seem very complicated one day can seem really simple the next. And this applies to our relationships. So what can seem like something that doesn't bother you, that looks quaint, cute, or I love the way they do that, can feel like the biggest block that you've ever imagined. So you can go from, oh, I love that the quirky way that they, how can I express this? I love the quirky way that they text me all the time and say, I love you, I miss you, I think that's lovely, right? And then depending on where your state of mind is, you can have a day where that just feels like it's draining all of your energy. It's really interesting. But if you don't understand state of mind and how that works, then you won't have any understanding of the fact that you've got to factor in the lens that you're looking at things through. This has to be the thing that you factor in first. Now, people don't understand this, so they don't factor it in. And then they jump to all sorts of conclusions about themselves, about the state of their relationship, about how compatible they are and aren't, about what needs to be fixed, what doesn't. I mean, and it just becomes this whole complicated mess, right? Whereas when you understand state of mind and how that impacts our relationships and what it is we are generating and the level of connection that we have, then that becomes a complete game changer, because there are things that you're doing now without that understanding that are making things harder and more complicated, and you're innocently doing it. And when you have that understanding, those things will no longer make sense to you. They will no longer make sense to you. And this is when relationships can become easy and effortless. They can become easy and effortless. And this is definitely the case. And I can only speak to my own experience. This is definitely the case with my husband and I. Because I understand state of mind so deeply, our relationship truly is easy and effortless. Truly. We connect really easily. We let go of things quickly. There's incredible amounts of goodwill between us. We're playful. We have fun together. We can also have the difficult conversations. I'm not suggesting you hide from them, but there is so much emotional safety built between us that those difficult conversations do not feel hard. I don't have to feel like I'm holding my breath or I'm walking on eggshells. All of those things that we take for granted, and this is what we actually allow into our kind of energy field, into our consciousness. That's what's there. It's like, oh, well, when you need to talk about, important stuff, it's always hard. You ever notice that this is the baseline that people operate from? Well, of course it's hard. It's an important conversation, so of course it's hard. Or of course it's hard. It's something that I feel strongly about. Well, of course it's hard. It's because we see things differently, right? The baseline is it's hard, and I'm telling you, when you have these foundational things in place, those conversations do not ever have to be hard. I'm not saying they never will be, but they don't have to be. Like, you're just operating from a different state of mind. And in a different state of mind, we're in a different energy. We're way more present. We've got far more emotional bandwidth and capacity. Like, I can't even tell you. It's so extraordinary that people have to experience it for themselves. And then they realize, and they'll say to me, Fiona, when you said that it was easy and effortless, I didn't believe you. I see it now. I believe you. I see it. I get it. Right. So there's just a whole other level out there that people don't know about. And I wish they did. Because if you knew the whole other level that was out there for you, that's available to everybody, regardless of gender, past, personality types, all of it, right? If you knew there was a whole other level out there, you would not hesitate. You would move heaven and earth to access that. You would move heaven and earth to access it, because you would see what's on offer for you, for the people that you love, and then the ripple effects of that go everywhere. Like, I can't even begin to describe. There are definitely people on the chat here who have experienced that, because they've been in my relatable program, and I've seen them experience that on the calls. But it's so powerful that, and that's what I mean by this week we just went to a whole other level. Every time you think that you're like, wow, this is amazing, then you have another week where it just goes to another level of amazingness. And I think that's because, as human beings, there's no endpoint to our capacity for love, for understanding, for consciousness. There's no endpoint. And so you never get there. There's no there, right? There's just experience after experience after experience after experience, and then the meaning we make of everything, because we're meaning-making machines, right? And a lot of us don't realize the meaning that we're making. We can't even see it because it just looks like this is the way things are. And so this is why it is so important that, and this is where, it, as I was saying earlier, it can feel counterintuitive, because what I'm talking about is I'm saying you focus on you. Don't focus on your husband so much. Don't focus on your wife so much. Just focus on you. Start there. That's where freedom for you, and when you experience freedom, everybody does, right? This is where freedom for you is found. It's within you. When you see it, when you know it, nothing is ever the same. Hey, Lee. Hi, darling. Thank you for saying hi. It's always lovely to see your name on the screen. Hi, Ian. The letting go is critical. It can feel like relationships just accumulate resentments over time. Life really is short. Yeah. The letting go is really crucial. However, the reason people find it hard to let go, so let's just talk about that for a second. Why do you think people find it hard to let go? Anyone want to have a crack at that? Anyone want to have a conversation about that? Why do you think people find it hard to let go? Lee, learning the next level changes everything. It sure does. Hey, Kirsty. Hi, Fee. I just love this understanding. This changed so much for me. I know. Isn't it awesome? I know. I'm so happy for you, Kirsty. I really am. It's lovely. It's lovely to see, honey. Why do you think people find it hard to let go? Because it's change? Yeah, that's true. It's change. That's part of it. Because we think we're right. Yes, that's true. Those I can't argue with those things, Irma. People think they're right because it's change. But why also? Yes, we do attach so much to being right. We do. And if we realized how far away it takes us from love, we wouldn't be so attached, right? But why else? All of those things are looking in the right direction. But why else do you think people find it hard to let go? We do get addicted to being right, Craig. You're absolutely right. I was very much addicted to being right. Oh my goodness, I would get dopamine hits from it. Dopamine hits, definitely. But of course, a dopamine hit doesn't last for very long, and then you're left with a feeling of emptiness afterwards. And so then you need the next one, right? I see this in people. And so that's one of the reasons we get addicted, because we get this rush, we get this dopamine hit. Ian, they don't want the same thing to happen again, or they have expectations. Yes, that's exactly right. We think, right, by letting go, we're opening ourselves up to the same thing happening again. And we think the only way to stop that from happening is to hold on tight. That's what we think. 100%. Right? And all the other things are definitely correct on that as well. But yes, this is, and I'm going to say this is a misunderstanding, a massive misunderstanding, right? Because this is exactly why people don't let go. They don't want the same thing to happen again. And so we innocently believe, if I hold on to that, if I remember that, right? If I remember that, I can protect myself from that happening again. But think about it for a second, all right? Just think about this for a second. On one level, on a logical level, that makes sense, right? It does. I can completely understand and see it. And it's kind of what we're indoctrinated into believing, isn't it? That if I hold on to that and I make sure I remember that, then I can stop that from happening again. I can protect myself. But think about what happens when you hold on to something and you're remembering it and you're thinking about it. What happens? What happens? When you're holding on to something, you're remembering it and you're thinking about it, what happens? I could talk about this for about 2 hours, by the way, just this one topic. I could talk about it for 2 hours easily. And I want you guys to start to think a little bit about it. What happens when we do that? We're holding on. We're remembering what happened. We're thinking about it. And we're saying, okay, I can't let that happen again. Yes, you do get stuck. Why? Why do you get stuck, though? Why do you get stuck? It never goes away. Lucy? Yep. Inertia? Yep. Yes. You carry it in your energy. That's right, Lee. You carry it in your energy. And whatever you carry in your energy, you attract. Whatever you carry in your energy, you attract. Because it's just the way energy works. That's quantum physics. If you don't believe me, Google quantum physics and look it up. All right? Whatever you carry in your energy, you attract. And so you inadvertently recreate it again and again and again. Because it looks like, as well, this is the other thing that happens, it looks like I need to be on guard. Now, the minute you think you need to be on guard, what else happens? You build a wall around your heart. You feel separate from the whole. Human beings do not do well when they feel separate from the whole. You are more likely to feel defensive. You're more likely to feel like there's something that you have to protect yourself from. So is your mind open? Is your heart open? Or is it closed? Think about it. Is your heart and mind open, or are they closed? And so there's this enormous misunderstanding in the world that I have to protect myself from something like that happening again. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not saying that you are in a state of naivety. That's not what I'm talking about. See, as human beings, we tend to jump to these extremes. I'm either holding on tight. Oh, if I'm not holding on, well, then I'm just being naive. I'm being stupid. I'm opening up to it happening. I deserve it. If I'm just going to, like, it's all this stuff that goes around in our minds, okay? And yeah, holding on does give us the illusion of control. Yes, it does. Vulnerability can be hard. I get that. But I feel like if you're someone who finds vulnerability hard, it's because you don't have a true sense of who you are. When you have a true sense of who you are, vulnerability is easy. It feels amazing. Nothing else makes sense. But so many of us don't have a true sense of who we are. And so it looks like there's something that we need to protect, defend. And so that's when vulnerability can be hard. But when you have a true sense of who you are, vulnerability is easy. It truly is. And I say that as someone who used to find vulnerability very hard. I don't anymore at all. I really don't. You know, there are so many things that we misunderstand. And because of that misunderstanding, things like vulnerability become hard. We have walls around our hearts. It looks like we've got to hold on tight. We've got to make sure it never happens again. And the only way we know how to do that is to think about it all the time. Hold it in our energy, hold it in our consciousness. And then we don't realize that what we're doing is we're innocently recreating it. Can you see why it matters so much that you understand how things work? Because without understanding that, you innocently recreate the very thing you don't want. I see this in people all the time. And notice I said innocently. We innocently create the very thing we don't want. Even if we've read all the books, done all the courses, if you don't have that foundational understanding of how things work, this is what people do again and again and again and again. Thanks so much for all of your comments, everyone. That really helps. I love to see where people are at. I really, and you're all bang on. You're all bang on. And yes, if it's what you're focusing on, you will see it everywhere, right? Because that's just the way the brain works. Okay, so there is an easy way to let go, right? That makes complete sense, where it doesn't feel like you're letting yourself down. Okay, because I think that's the other thing. if I let go of this, I'm letting myself down. I'm not protecting myself. I'm not keeping myself safe. Okay, I've got to remember this. I've got to make sure. I've got to be careful of this happening again. Like, it makes complete sense. But there's a whole other way of letting go, where you are still taking care of yourself, but you are not living in this energy field of protection, having the wall up, defending yourself, being careful, looking at life and others through a lens of suspicion. I meet people all the time who meet life through a lens of suspicion. That's how they meet life. And so, of course, people who meet life through a lens of suspicion often have experiences of being taken for a ride or meeting untrustworthy people. It's just fascinating when you see it, right? And so then it looks even more like they have to be careful. Wow, I've really got to be careful, because there's a lot of people like that in the world, right? There's a lot of untrustworthy people like that out there. I have to protect myself. I have to be careful. But of course, whenever we do that, we feel separate from the whole. And as human beings, we do not thrive when we feel separate from the whole. We do not. Most of us are going through life not even realizing that's what we're doing, and wondering why life feels so hard and heavy. And, if it's the one thing I hear so much from people when I'm speaking to them is, I never thought my life would be like this. I thought by my age, my life would look different. I thought my life would turn out differently. I never thought I'd be in a situation where, my wife and I, or my husband and I, are sleeping in separate bedrooms and we're fighting every day. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I'm walking on eggshells everywhere I go, where I'm so unhappy. I never imagined my life would be like that. Like, that's such a common thing. And my heart goes out to people who feel that way. I've experienced that before in my life. And it feels so unfair, because it feels like you've tried so hard, you've worked so hard. But it just comes down to just a fundamental misunderstanding of how things work. And so we inadvertently create the very thing we don't want. And then, of course, when we don't understand that, you look out here and it looks like the other person has to change. If only they were different. If only this situation were different, then everything would be fine. Right? If only I could just get them to change. If only they would stop doing this. If only they would do more of that. If only. It's just a whole other way of seeing things, guys. It just doesn't have to be. That's such a hard way to do life. Complicated, exhausting, overwhelming. Like, it's just so hard. There's an easier way to navigate your way through the world than that. I promise you. Alrighty. So, I'm just going to come to a question that I got this week, actually. Hi, Fiona. How do I move through grief and loss? My relationship of 2.5 years ended abruptly and shockingly. From the beginning, I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term relationship because of where I was at in my life. And I told him this on numerous occasions. But nonetheless, we fell deeply in love, and it's a relationship I'll always cherish. I knew the end was coming, as it wasn't progressing, and some of the issues between us were insurmountable. I had told him this several times over the past few months and what needed to change, but he didn't seem to hear me. He was taking me for granted, which he admitted to. I was summoning up the courage to let him know it was over, and even had the hopes we could transition to a friendship. I was at his place and told him we were coming to an end, and then he took swift action. No warning, no discussion. He just said, I think we should end it now, and it was done. He asked me to leave and abruptly cut me out of his life. He even defriended me on Facebook the next day. It was a brutal ending. I'm so sorry. Now my emotions are in turmoil. I underestimated how devoted he was to me and how hurt he was, and I feel deep compassion and empathy for him. And I'm grieving, way more than I imagined. I'm trying to work out what has triggered in me to experience such a profound sense of loss. Okay, well, first of all, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I truly am. Grief is its own journey, and it's different for everyone, and it's a very personal thing. And I think as human beings, the first thing we need to understand is, however we think something is, our experience or going to be, you never know until you're in the experience of that thing itself, right? And I really want you to think about this. Like, if you're talking to a friend and they're sharing something that's going on for them, and you jump in and you say, well, I wouldn't put up with that. I wouldn't do that. I'd do this. Just, you need to stop for a second, because you actually don't know that. You don't know how you're going to experience something until you are actually in the experience of that thing. This is a thing you don't know. You can imagine, you can think that you know, you can do whatever, but you don't know. Do you know the amount of people that come to me and say, oh, I found out that my wife has had an affair, or my husband, or I found out my partner's got a gambling addiction or an alcohol addiction, whatever, right? I found out my partner watches porn or whatever. And I swore to myself that if I found out that, I would leave. But now they're in the experience of it, and that's not what they want to do. They're shocked. They're like, I don't understand why I'm not leaving. I always thought that I'd be saying, that's it, it's over. So please understand, have the humility to recognize that when someone is sharing their experience and you think that you would do something different, keep it to yourself, because you actually don't know. And it's not helpful to another person to project your imagined response to something, right, into a conversation. It's not helpful. So I say to this beautiful soul who's reached out, you're saying the grief is a lot deeper, and that's probably because you felt like the relationship wasn't working, and so you felt like probably that because you had that awareness that you had prepared in some way for the ending of it. But of course, we don't know the experience we're going to have about anything until we are in the experience of it. So I think that's the first thing you have to really understand. And also that grief is its own journey, right? We need to have the humility in our lives to understand that we don't have all the answers, and we know far less than we think we do. Far, far, far less than we think we do. Now, I'm going to say, I imagine that this person kind of finished things abruptly because the pain of not feeling that like they were enough, or that they were doing the right thing, or that it wasn't working out was more than they could bear. And so this is what people do. We shut things down because we just want to shut the pain. We just want to shut the pain. We want to get rid of it. So it's like, okay, that's it. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I can't think about it. It's too painful. So I'm just going to cut you out of my life, and I want nothing to do with you. Right? And that's a common response, because it gives us a sense of control over something that we feel very out of control around. Remember, when we don't understand the way things work, we only have two options in the way that we can handle it. Change that thing or withdraw from it. That's it. That's all we got. And in relationships, that can make things very hard, because people then get stuck in no man's land. I can't change you, and I don't want to leave. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. And that's often a place that a couple will come to me from. Right? I've tried to change, and we've tried to change each other, but all we do is fight. And I don't want to leave. And now we're in no man's land, which is extremely painful, right? It's so painful. My heart goes out to people in that situation. That's where I was all those years ago with my husband. It's very painful. It doesn't have to be like that. But this is what happens when we don't understand the way things work. Control that thing, and you can imagine how that goes down in a relationship, doesn't it? People hate feeling like they are being controlled. Because what's the underlying message when you're trying to change or control someone? What's the underlying message? The underlying message is you are not enough. That's the underlying message that you're projecting out to someone, which is a massive core fear of people, the fear of not being enough. I'm actually releasing a new program next year called Unshakable, where I'm going to be looking at some of this stuff, because I can see how much it trips people up. So it'd be different to Relatable. It's more like a bridge to Relatable, I guess, but we're going to be looking at some of this stuff. So that's what you're projecting onto someone. And so then if someone feels not enough around you, are they leading with their heart, or are they leading with their insecurities? Are they going to be vulnerable? Of course not. It's not safe to be vulnerable, is it? Especially if I feel like I'm not enough. And so the worst of me comes out. And then after a while, people get into a pattern where it's the two me's. I represent me. I represent me. Yeah, this is where competition starts. Well, you know, I did the groceries yesterday. Well, I mopped the floors and cleaned the bathrooms. And do you know what I mean? Like those kind of conversations, you can hear it. I represent me and I represent me. There is no we. There's no we there. And so, of course, when it becomes painful enough like that, where it's just me and me, then people shut down. They get to a point where I can't deal with it anymore. I've had enough. I've had enough of living in the pain of this. I've had enough of fighting against it. I've had enough. Bang, out, gone. And yeah, it can be an absolute shock. It can be very painful. I think the best thing that we can do when we're ready, whenever you've been through a situation that's been really difficult or something that's ended abruptly, or there's been an abrupt change, or things haven't gone your way, it's being able to have the humility to look inside yourself and ask, what do I need to learn from this? And then giving yourself the space and time to allow that answer to come. You can't ask yourself that question, by the way, in a judgmental frame of mind. All right? You can't do it through judgment. It's got to be done through an open, reflective state of mind. What do I need to learn from this? Because there's a learning opportunity in everything if we're prepared to see it. Not saying you have to, not saying you should, but that's a great way for you to feel more empowered about something that's not going your way. It really is. So I hope that helps you understand perhaps why the relationship finished as quickly as it did. And I think as well, you know, the journey of grief is one of allowing. Now, I can't say that I'm an expert on grief because I lost someone very, very close to me this year, but I haven't lost a parent yet. As my father was saying to me this week, my parents are quite funny. Joke about things. Dad was saying, I'm in the death decade. We're in the death decade feed. I'm like, that's great, Dad. Thanks for that. It's a lovely visual of so that I've now got in my head. But, you know, I haven't lost a parent or, you know, a relative. So I can't say that I'm an expert on it, but I've grieved things like the loss of my friend, my children growing old and leaving the home. I've grieved different things in different ways, losing beloved pets and animals and things like that. And it is a journey. You know, the journey of grief is one of allowing so far of what I've learned around it. The minute you try and control grief, you hold yourself hostage. It's a journey of allowing, but also trusting that on the other side of it, you are okay. Or maybe there isn't even another side, that as you travel this journey, you're okay. And so again, to me, that comes back to having a strong sense of the truth of who you are, as so many things do, because that's something that we draw on when we're navigating things like that. All right, everybody, we are at the end of this live, so I hope this has been helpful. If you have a question you would like me to answer for you, please send it through to hello@fionalukis.com.au and just mark it Friday Live Q&A and I'll answer it for you. If you would like to join our Relatable family or find out more about it, pop the links there in the comments for you. We'd love to have you. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing community. Just amazing. And, you know, if you want to start 2026 in a completely different space, come join us. We'd love to have you. All right, everybody, I will be here next Friday. At this stage, my last Friday live for 2025, let me just will be the 19th. So 2 Fridays from now, that will be the last call, and then I'll be having a break in January because it's summer here and it's break time. So if you've got any questions you want me to answer, send them in now, and I'll make sure they get taken care of over the next 2 Fridays. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Sending you all love. Thanks, Lynn. Take care, everyone. Ciao.